Hi, in this video we're going to learn how to use the power of EFT to get relief from physical pain. My name is Stefan Gonick. I'm an expert EFT practitioner, trainer, and soulmate attraction mentor from eft-alive.com. Now we're actually going to learn 3 different ways to use EFT to get relief from physical pain. The first one is very simple and straightforward that I'm sure you'll have no trouble using. The second one is just a little bit more advanced, which I think you'll also be able to do with no problem. And then the third one is going to be a much deeper, more advanced method to learn how to use EFT to heal and relieve physical pain. All right, so in the first simple method, the first step is to locate where in your body you have the physical pain. And what I mean by that is that we're going to feel it in some place. Let's say for this example, it's in my left shoulder, and we want to be specific about it. So I don't want to just say I have pain in my shoulder, it's pain in my left shoulder. Because if I just say shoulder, it could be either shoulder. If I have pain in my back, I don't want to just say pain in my back. There's going to be upper back, middle back, lower back, left side, right side, things like that. So you want to be very specific about where the pain is located. So for this example, it's going to be my left shoulder. The second step is to get very specific as to exactly how you experience the pain, because in actuality, there's a lot of different kinds of pain, right? So the word pain is too vague in general. A pain could be a sharp pain. It can be a dull pain. It could be a throbbing pain. It can be electrical pain. It could be, a jolting pain. There's a lot of different ways that we experience pain. It could be a burning pain, things like that, right? So you want to pick the words that, as best as possible, capture the experience of the pain you're having. So in the example of this one, I'm going to say, if I move my arm like this, then I feel this sharp burning pain in my left shoulder, right? Now you're going to want to move the part of your body that hurts enough that you clearly feel the pain, not so much that you hurt yourself, damage yourself or injure yourself, but enough that, okay, yeah, when I go like this, I fully feel the pain. So now once we've picked the location, we've described as precisely as we can, we then want to measure on a scale of 0 to 10 how intense this pain is. So again, when I think if I really kind of push my arm up like this, it's pretty strong. It's like an 8 out of 10. Okay? At that point, we have everything we need. And then following the basic recipe, we would start by doing the Set Up Affirmation. Now, I tend to make one change to the Set Up Affirmation from the usual one. The usual one is, even though problem statement, right? I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself. Now, I'd like to add to that about accepting this part of our body. Because lots of times when we have pain somewhere in our body, we actually become very rejecting of that part of our body. We might think, God, if I just can get rid of this dang shoulder, it just hurts me all the time. I hate it. But in actuality, we want to have compassion for the part of our body that's in pain, because that part of our body is hurting. And if we're compassionate towards it, it's going to help it feel better and be more likely to be able to heal and feel and relieve the pain, release it. So the way I change the Set Up Affirmation to be is, so in this example, it'd be, even though I have this sharp burning pain in my left shoulder, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself, including my poor shoulder. So if you have pain in your knee, including my poor knee, or your back, including my poor lower right side of my back. Okay, so you want to add this extra acceptance to that part of your body that hurts. So then what you would do is you would do this Set Up Affirmation 3 times, like you normally would. So even though I have this sharp burning pain in my left shoulder, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself, including my poor shoulder, and you do that 3 times. You then just use the phrase by itself without the even though at every tapping point. Sharp pain in my left shoulder, 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 and you just go through all the points. And you do a couple of rounds, 2 or 3 rounds, and then you go back and you reassess. All right, if I move my shoulder now, after 3 rounds, it's about a 5 instead of 8. Okay, good, it's getting better. So you start over again. Even though I have this sharp burning pain in my left shoulder, I deeply, profoundly love and accept myself, including my poor shoulder, 3 times, then do a couple more rounds of tapping. So after every 2 or 3 rounds, you check back again, and ideally, that pain level just keeps going down, 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 down until you get to 0 and the pain is gone. Yay, it's done, right? And that could very well happen. Using the simplest technique, that may be all it takes to get rid of the pain. It's really cool. But there's 2 other options as to what could be happening here. And that is, the pain could start out at a high number and come down part way and then stop. That's one option. Or it could be it starts at some number and it doesn't budge. You might do 10 rounds of tapping, it's still an 8, right? So when that happens, when either of those happen, you want to go to method number 2. And method number 2 includes adding in an emotional component, which involves either your feelings about the pain or feelings associated with the pain. Now, feelings about the pain could be things like, I'm afraid it'll never go away, right? Or it could be, I'm afraid this is a sign that I'm getting older and my body's falling apart, things like that. It could be angry at yourself for having the pain. These would be feelings about the pain. Feelings associated with the pain are a little more subtle. It's like, I'll ask my client to, let's say that person had pain in their stomach. I'll say, just kind of put your attention, maybe put your hand in your stomach, put your attention on it, and just notice if there seems to be an emotion associated with it. It's not pain about it, but just an emotion associated with this physical pain. And sometimes there will be. You go, I'm aware that there's sadness there. Don't know what the sadness is about, but there seems to be sadness associated with this pain in my stomach. Okay? So either one of these cases, you're going to be adding in the pain into the phrase, right? So if this, my example I've been using so far, it might be sharp burning pain in my left shoulder and I'm sad. And I'm scared about the future, scared it'll never go away, scared that I'm falling apart, whatever the feeling is. And then you just use that as your part of your tapping. Even though I have this sharp burning pain in my left shoulder and I'm afraid it'll never get better, or I'm afraid my body's starting to fall apart, I deeply, profoundly love and accept myself. And 3 times, then tap on pain in my left shoulder and I'm afraid this means my body's falling apart. I'm old and my body's falling apart, right? And you just do that at every point, just like we did before. And you may find that, okay, now the pain it starts getting better and better again. I'll give you an example of this. I had a friend a long time ago who was a yoga teacher, and she was very flexible, and somehow she injured her hip, so that when she was teaching yoga, she had to avoid certain poses because it would hurt her hip. And so we started tapping on the pain. I think it was about a 9 out of 10 when she moved it in a certain way. And we did a few rounds of tapping and went from a 9 to a 6, but then it stopped at 6. We did a bunch more rounds, didn't budge. So then I just had this immediate intuition, even without asking her. I just thought, if I was a yoga teacher, I'd probably be kind of pissed at myself. I'd feel sort of like an idiot for having, a pain in my hip, considering I'm a yoga teacher, for God's sake, right? So I just add that in. I said, okay, try repeating this. Even though I've got this such and such pain in my right hip, and I'm mad at myself and feel like an idiot for having this injury, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself, including my poor hip. And then we did some more rounds of tapping and the pain just came all the way down. So her anger at herself was keeping that pain locked in place beyond a certain point. Okay, so feelings about the pain or associated with the pain is method number 2. Now, method number 3 is the most complicated one, the most challenging one to apply, particularly on ourselves, but we'll go ahead and talk about it. And the idea here is that there can be a deeper issue underlying the pain that's either causing the pain or keeping it in place. Okay? Now, that may sound a little strange because you think, well, I've had this pain for many years and it came from this injury I had, at the time, right? Where I fell and broke my leg or injured, whatever, And sure, in the beginning, when you first get injured, there's a physical cause of this pain, though even there, it can become intensified by our feelings about the pain as it's happening. So lots of times it's 2 or 3 times more painful than it would otherwise be because of our feelings. But even if it's gone on for a long time, that's the thing actually, is that our body has a way to heal. It's very good at healing. And usually if you break your leg or injure yourself in some way, after 2-3 months, your body should have healed it by then. And the pain shouldn't be continuing anymore. But lots of times it does, in spite of the fact that the healing should already be complete. So this is the kind of thing we're looking for, is why is the pain persisting? So I'm going to give you an example. This is an example I read about on Gary Craig's website a long time ago. And the case was a guy who's a construction worker, and he was on his construction site when all of a sudden some other guy who's running a forklift accidentally lowered this big container on him and injured his back. So he was rushed to the hospital, and he spent like a month in a hospital recovering from this injury. But even after the time that it took in the hospital, the pain still persisted. And in fact, the pain gradually kept getting worse. Instead of better, you think eventually get better and better and better and better, but instead it was getting gradually worse and worse and worse. And over the years, he tried many things to try and address his pain. He came back for 2 different back surgeries. He tried chiropractic, he tried deep massage, he tried acupuncture even. He tried all these different kind of things. And they would help just temporarily in the moment, but then it would come back and it would get even worse. Eventually he went on these strong pain medications and helped to some degree, but the pain continued to get worse and he kept having to increase the dose until finally he reached the absolute maximum dose that his doctor would let him take, and it was still really bad. And this was 20 years after the original injury. It's continually getting worse. What could be going on here? Well, out of desperation, this guy went to an EFT practitioner, and the EFT practitioner says, tell me about what happened. And as the guy was talking about what happened on the construction site, he seemed angry. And so the EFT practitioner said, you seem angry, right? Well, what's that about? And the guy says, well, the guy who was driving that forklift, who dropped the container on me, was my best friend. And I feel betrayed by him because I feel like, as my best friend, he should have been looking out for me better. And so they went ahead and started tapping in all of his old anger at his friend, the feelings of betrayal and other feelings that came up, but a lot of it was anger. Spent the whole session on that. And by the end of the session, this person had released all of this old anger, and the pain of 20 years was gone. 20 years of pain that nothing helped, that finally took care of it. He was able to go off of his pain medications. A year later, the pain was still gone. So this was a long-lasting change. It wasn't, before the method would help him for a day, right? See, chiropractic, that day you feel a little better, right? Or acupuncture lasts for a day, maybe 2. But basically, nothing had any really lasting effect. This worked. So this is an example of how this emotional issue was locking the pain in place, keep it in place. And there's many other examples like that. The tricky part is figuring out what the underlying emotional issue is. So if you're trying to figure this out on your own, the way to do that is to try and think about what was going on in my life, either at the time the thing happened or leading up to it. Because sometimes the pain, like in his case, came from an injury. Sometimes this weird pain will just show up in our body for no apparent cause. So it's particularly an example like that. You want to start looking for, okay, what was leading up to that? Over the months leading up to it even, right? That year. Like what was going on in my life at that year, the year that this pain started. So, that's kind of the best suggestion I have for you trying to figure this out on your own. That can be hard to do. If you would identify what it is, then you just tap on that. Otherwise, the best thing to do is to contact an EFT practitioner, because chances are, if they can help you figure out what the underlying emotional issue is, then it becomes possible to finally release this chronic pain no matter how long it's been going on in your life. Like 20 years for this other guy, right? So it can be really amazing the amount of relief you can get. Either complete relief or at least significant relief, which that alone is incredible when you've been living with pain for a long time. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, it would really help me to let me know by clicking on the like button. Also, I have this free ebook called Change Your Beliefs, Change Your Life, using the magic of EFT, that you can get at my website at eftalive.com. And you can do that by clicking on the link in the description of this video. And it comes with a newsletter called Tapping Tips for Your Success that are filled with practical short articles or videos like this one that help you enhance your life in practical ways using EFT. So that's it for now, and keep tapping.